Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. Today I'm going to talk about a kind of interesting little news item that has got people in certain circles kind of, talking about it. And this is, there is a company in the DeFi space, Titan Finance, with a token called Iron. And Mark Cuban was a notable investor, had money deposited in this liquidity pool, supposedly $8 million or something like that. And they just had a massive collapse that resulted in a bunch of people losing a lot of money, supposedly including Mark Cuban. And so I'm going to recap a little bit about what went on there, but also put this in the context of the broader DeFi space. I'm obviously a notable person for saying that, in my opinion, what's going on in the world of crypto, and in particular DeFi, is probably the biggest financial revolution in the last 100 years. Not that that's saying that much, because the world of finance tends to move fairly slowly, but it at least has the potential to upset a lot of things, and there's going to be a lot of money made there. So this was what I've been kind of mentioning over the last while, and we're going to cover a little bit about how this fits into that broader context here coming up in just a minute. Before we do that, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, make sure you hit the all notifications so you don't miss out on any of our videos. We try to produce great content for you every day, so feel free to go back and check out some of our videos. If you'd like help at all with international structuring, getting residencies, citizenships, opening bank accounts, forming companies, all these types of things, please reach out to us. You can book a call with me, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description below. Or you can check out our websites, offshorecitizen.net, offshorecapitalist.com, and you can send us a message through there. Okay. So I've talked before about kind of explaining like what is yield farming. I've mentioned that yield farming can be a cool way of getting ongoing earnings along with staking and lending. And this is just kind of like an interesting space, especially I think contrasted with the fact that literally there is negative interest in a bunch of different banks today. And so, when you compare that, if you can get, hey, listen, let's say you can deposit money on Aave and get 8% on it, 8% is really freaking good compared to what you're getting in your bank. Now, there's different pros and cons. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the risks that come into this in light of this particular incident. And the reality is this is just one of many, 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 right? So I mentioned before that you want to be very careful about, how do you engage with this? You have to understand that although there's a lot of money to be made, it's also like a very emerging sector. And so, yeah, that's an important thing. And I don't particularly advocate any specific one of these different methods, but I do think that it's a great opportunity to learn. And I'm actually working on a project right now where we're trying to bring safety into that space through the use of some artificial intelligence and scanning smart contracts and things like this. But that's a whole other conversation for another time. In the meantime, what happened here? Well, just the quick background is that you normally have yield farming, right? So what's yield farming? I've done another video on this. You put money into liquidity pools, which is a pair of tokens in order to help facilitate the transaction of swapping between one pair and another. So say somebody has Ethereum and somebody wants to get Polkastarter, there has to be a trading pair there or some series of hops of trading pairs to swap from one to the other, right? Very, very simple. And so you will never have the same amount that basically what you want to sell and what somebody else wants to buy will never match up, right? And so as a result, we have these liquidity pools in the middle. The alternative is, so this facilitates something called automated market making, which stands in contrast to what are called order books. And so again, bigger concept than we're talking about here, but just understand this for the point of reference because it fits into what exactly happened. Now, when you do this, there is a huge risk of something called impermanent loss, okay? And impermanent loss comes based on, I'll maybe do a video on it separately, but when the value of one token is changing relative to another and you're doing this, basically you're getting, somebody's buying your tokens and it's rebalancing. And as it does, there can be these net losses. And so there's all kinds of different things. We actually built a really sophisticated impermanent loss calculator to show people how dangerous this is and help them understand that, hey, listen, you want token pairs that are the same or that are in a situation where you have a small ratio of one token to the other, typically a large percentage of stablecoins to non-stable coins. So typically like 2.5%, 97.5%, something like that, to mitigate the effects of this impermanent loss, because that can actually give you a negative return even if you're in a situation where you're getting a positive yield in terms of the yield farming. Okay, so that's just some background. Now, there's been all kinds of hacks and risks that have come in. So for instance, one of the most common things that would happen would be what's called a rug pull. And often this would be facilitated by the people who set up the contract having the ability to do something called infinite minting. And so basically what this would mean is that they could just produce an unlimited amount of the one token, and then based on that, they could just drain all the collateral out of the liquidity pool and basically crash everybody and cause people's money to be lost. So this has been going on for, kind of since the early days of yield farming about a year ago, and the community has become more and more aware of it, and there's different smart contract audits that can be done looking at, what are the different problems with it, etc. Then there were flash loan attacks that came along, and so, that's a whole other type of attack. And there's some very sophisticated attacks in this. Anyway, along comes this company, Titan Finance, and Titan Finance says, hey, listen, we're going to create our own stablecoin, which is called Iron, which is 85% backed by USDC, 15% backed by their own token, Titan, and Titan has a varying price. Due to a lot of different things of what happened in this particular situation, there's some mechanics of how Titan gets produced. And basically people ended up, so the price of Titan had gone up quite a lot, right? Well then, something has happened that caused the price of Titan to go down, which meant that the backing of that stablecoin was not so good. So then more people ended up removing their liquidity in order to cash out, which meant they were basically getting rid of, actually what's happened is Titan tokens are being created. So the amount of Titan tokens exploded, which basically caused the value of Titan tokens to go down a lot, basically to nothing. And basically the collateral that was left was just the stable coins. So I think they're like 74% of the people's money is kind of protected in that stablecoin pool, and supposedly they'll be able to redeem this in the meantime. But this was like a big thing because Mark Cuban was in it. He was in it publicly, and they'd made some claims about how strong and protected and what they called bear resistant their system was. Okay, so anyway, Mark had done it in order to, hey, listen, earn some yield. Sounds great, right? A lot better than the bank. However, this was a vulnerability that came into play. Now, why do I give you this explanation? I give you this explanation because a few things are true. I think one is a certain set of people are going to go and they're going to say, oh my gosh, people are losing money, therefore it's bad, right? And I saw some sort of a meme a while ago about how, the banks and the government and people who caused the 2008 financial collapse and all sorts of other major issues in the financial system want to protect you from the highest performing asset in the history of the world, mainly Bitcoin, right? And the truth is that there's a culture of safetyism out there that says, hey, listen, people losing money is bad, risk is bad, people getting hurt is bad. And the truth is, these are all just parts of an evolutionary process, right? When we had early computers, there was a lot of viruses, right? You might remember in the kind of like Windows 95 to, Windows XP days, when, it was just constant malware and constant viruses and virus scans and all this kind of stuff. And they kind of cleaned that up over time, right? Like there are growing points in anything. And to me, this does not remove the overall fundamental economics that make a technology appealing. And, some people, a person should go into things knowing, hey, listen, I'm playing around, I'm experimenting, I'm learning, I'm figuring out different ways to be on the cutting edge. And when I'm on the cutting edge, I'm taking some risk in doing that. However, I'm also putting myself in a position where I can be rewarded far, far greater than what people would be in something that's very outdated. I think one of the things that has occurred to me over the last number of years is you have a certain group of people who kind of feel entitled, right? They're like, oh, hey, this is the way the world was, and I operated based on the way this world was. Maybe, I trained for this job, I've had this job forever, I've worked hard at this job, etc. And the world has kind of wiped that job away. And they feel upset. And it's like, look, you're not entitled to anything in life. That's, I think, kind of the point of the life that we live here is we're not entitled to anything, right? Life was a free gift. It was given to us. It wasn't deserved. And, what we're trying to do is trying to adapt and put ourselves in a position to take advantage of making our lives and hopefully the lives of other people better by moving around, by relocating, by building companies, by participating in new opportunities as freelancers, by investing. Like, that's how the world goes. The world continually is changing, and the people who are going to do well are the ones who are going to be flexible and who are going to adapt and who are going to pay attention to those changes and say, hey, listen, is this a crisis or is this an opportunity? And out of every crisis comes some sort of an opportunity. So anyway, that's just like a little bit background on the story. Of course, feel for the people who, got lost some money on that, including Mark Cuban. Fortunately, he's somebody who can afford to lose it. But that being said, they were also getting big returns before this. So, it goes both ways. Anyway, I hope that's helpful. If you have questions about it, put it in the comments below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If not, tell me why. Would really appreciate the feedback. And feel free to reach out to me if you would like help with any of these subjects that we handle. And I'm going to look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.